Carson Edwards is dealing with a brand new supporting cast, basically. What have you seen? How have you seen his game evolve this year? And what are the challenges in containing him?
Well, I think, first of all, obviously he's a terrific player. I'll answer the second part first. Just his explosiveness, you watch his speed with the ball, how he explodes to the rim. I think he's, not that he wasn't assertive before, but I've seen him take way more command, and especially early in the year, watching early, their team has kind of evolved a little bit and has gotten better, and Matt changed the lineup 4 or 5 games ago. And I think that's helped a little bit, but just watching how he's grabbed a hold of this team and really has kind of put him on his back, so to speak, and so explosive, so quick to the rim. He's created some offense from his defense, and he's really, as the other group is trying to play catch up, and obviously he's got a lot of young guys and a transfer and some guys that have stepped into roles they didn't have before. He's been able to kind of hold things together as everybody else figures out their roles.
Jeff?
You mentioned the lineup changes and how they've evolved. What specifically have you seen them doing better of late? I mean, 2 of the victories on Belmont non-conference, but then they looked really good against Iowa.
Yeah, I think the lineup change has made them more mobile. They went with Purdue instead of Harms, so it gives them a little more mobility on the perimeter, a little different look in terms of maybe the Purdue teams you've seen in the past that pounded it into Harms or Haas or pounded it into Swanigan 2 years ago. Not that they don't, they still will throw it inside, specifically when Harms comes in, but at times it almost looks like they have 5 guards on the floor, and their mobility, Evert has added a dimension to it. You got to guard, really, for the most part, when Boudreau and Evert are on the floor, you got to guard all 5 at the 3-point line, because they all 5 will, the other 3 along with those 2 in the front line will shoot it. So, and I've been impressed too with the Wheeler kid coming off the bench. He is a freshman who really has played well, specifically here in league play. So that's probably the biggest thing that jumps out. It's more moving parts on the floor, and it puts more pressure on your defense. And I think their offensive ascension has helped their defense too. I mean, they've always been a good defensive team, but they've been you look at their numbers analytically and what they've done nationally scoring, they've really been able to score pretty effectively, and I think that's helped what they've done defensively.
You mentioned that when they have a certain lineup in, they've got 5 guys, you have to defend the 3-point line. Do you feel you have the personnel, because you've worked to have versatile guys positioning the ball, to at least be able to contend with them when they go with that?
Yeah, I mean, we've worked at it, and that's something we've tried to really help Ethan with, knowing we would see mobile 4s, and that was, he's had some more experience with that now than he did a year ago. But we'll still, we'll look at multiple lineups. We played smaller at the 4 earlier in the year, and we have the flexibility to do that, whether that's with Khalil or Aleem or Brevin, depending on what lineup has to be out there at certain times. And we'll see how the flow. I'll continue to watch more film. I think tonight's game will help in that evaluation too, with them at Michigan State. So, like I said, it's more than just that. I mean, we've obviously got to do a good job with them in transition, and like I said, the multiple 3-point shooters and the pressure that Edwards puts on your defense all the time is something we got to be cognizant of.
Reavers has had a couple games where he's had high block numbers, and other games where not so much. Is there a learning curve when you're a shot blocker about when to go for it and when to not, and how is he at that?
Yeah, I think there was times, we were in the Bahamas when he set the record, and that was one thing we kind of forewarned him about, was be careful now, because they'll try to put you in positions to pick up fouls. Plus, you don't want to try to go block everything that puts you out of position for rebounding. So it's being opportunistic. Some teams will give you more opportunities than others. Sometimes it's where he is in the rotation. Defense, maybe he's away from the rim, he can't get there. So I think just being opportunistic and being wise about when you do and when you don't, and know there's a positive to it, but also if you're not coming away with a block, what are we giving up on an offensive rebound if we are giving up an offensive rebound? So I think he's gotten better with that. I like the way he's grown here. I mean, I think he's really he's figuring out he's a big guy, and what I mean by that is the strength that he has, that he gained from last year, he's starting to apply that more consistently in the paint. And he's very confident. You can see the look on his face and the swagger he plays with, that he can be a force inside. And that's something that maybe he didn't always believe in or have the tools to be able to do before.
Yeah.
Greg, you really liked what you saw from Aleem before in preseason. Then he had the knee injury. Then he kind of was coming back a little bit, but lately he hasn't been able to give you, I'm sure, what can you do to help him, and what does he need to do to just be able to contribute something on one end of the court?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just continue to be aggressive. And that's one thing we've talked with him and Kobe and to some extent Brevin about. Let it rip. Play freely. Don't worry about things. And Aleem has not been the same since the injury. I haven't seen the same player even in practice. So that's something he just got to continue to work to get back into a rhythm, get some flow going a little bit with him, and knock down some shots and get to the free throw line. He hasn't shot a free throw all year. So it's one thing that we've tried to convince him that he's got to be more than a three-point shooter and try to find a way to get in the paint, get on the offensive glass, find other ways to maybe invigorate your offensive ability other than just constantly hunting for threes. So we'll keep pushing him, keep putting him in positions where he can hopefully help in that regard and hopefully bust out of it.
Just to follow up on Reavers, his rebounding totals weren't high last year. I know he has blockout responsibilities, and I know Ethan gobbles up a lot of those rebounds too. Is that a number you feel should be higher though? Do you feel like he should be getting more?
Yeah, I think you look at a number, yes, it should be higher, and we want it to be higher, and we've talked about that. But again, like you said, when I watch tape, sometimes he's not in the position to be getting the rebound, or Ethan goes and gets it. But we do want, his rebounding numbers to go up for sure. So he's aware of that. Like I said, sometimes there's reasons why he isn't there. He's taking care of other responsibilities maybe that are as or more important than who gets the basketball off the glass.
Would you say your team's resilient, working that way?
Yeah, I think they have been this whole year. They've been resilient. We've been able to fight back from deficits. We were able to, other than a bad half at Western Kentucky defensively and the bad half offensively the other night against Minnesota here, we've been fairly consistent. For the most part, we've had some ebbs and flows within halves, but the resiliency that they showed the second half, Monday night, or whatever night it was, Thursday night. I'm playing all these odd nights this year with the different networks. Minnesota game, the resiliency they showed in that game, I don't know if last year's team would have been able to get back and put ourselves in a position where 2 minutes to go to have a 2-point game or have a chance to do something down the stretch. They, for as bad as the first half was offensively, in terms of not being able to convert and make shots and maybe shot selection, the willingness to continue to fight in the battle defensively that we put forth, I think it exemplifies who we are. And they continue to show that. I thought we were really good defensively at Penn State. So for the most part, like I said, other than maybe a half, this group has understood what their identity is and has played pretty well. And the offense, we always want it to come out of a fire hose, but we know there's going to be times it's not going to be that abundant, and we've got to be able to withstand some of those droughts at times. And I think they understand that the importance of the defensive end of the floor and how they've taken care of the ball. I think that shows some resiliency too. I think we're second in the country. I don't know, Patrick, am I right? Third, fourth, third? And we bounce from day to day based on, I know we're doing a pretty decent job of taking care of the ball, and it could always be better.
Yeah. Great.
Ethan has talked at times about rushing in the first half offensively. You've talked about him using more fakes to get balanced. The other night against Penn State, he missed a lot of shots in the first half. Was that an example where he was not using some fakes or rushing some things early in that game?
Yeah, I think he got sped up a little bit or came in, whether he gets sped up or he speeds himself up. I think it's a combination of the two, and it's one of the things we talked about in one of the timeouts, just slow down, and that's one of the benefits of adding pump fakes is that it forces you to slow down. Obviously there's things it does the defensive player too, of getting them in foul trouble or getting them to leave their feet, but more importantly, it makes the offensive player slow down and finish towards the backboard and towards your target versus, jumping out of bounds or avoiding contact. So I think once he got through that, you know, I think he was a little bit better. But yeah, I want to be better than 5 for 15 or whatever he was in the first half, specifically with where he's getting the ball.